What movie would end the fastest if all the characters behaved logically? By Ask Reddit.
Jurassic World. The dinosaur escaped. Oh, let me look at its tracking device. Still in there. Oh, okay. Everyone lives.
Made me hate the movie because of the stupidity of the humans.
It's one of those movies where I root for the dinosaur rather than the humans.
My daughter giggles uncontrollably when dude gets eaten by a T-Rex on the toilet.
I have a picture of that scene in the guest bathroom, right across from the toilet.
That's awesome. What a great idea.
I'd like to point out that not only does the lawyer survive in the book, he has a much bigger role and even wrestles a raptor at one point. But Hollywood gotta have cowardly lawyer.
They did Gennaro dirty in the movie, and they actually made Hammond a good guy. Still one of my all-time favorite movies, but some of the characters are so different. They also denied Muldoon the opportunity to RPG a raptor. At least we got to see that in Jurassic World.
I watch one of the Jurassic movies every Christmas because it makes me happy to see people eaten by dinosaurs.
Or they could build enclosures that work. Zoos rarely have problems. And these are cutting-edge scientists who can literally clone dinos. It shouldn't be hard.
I remember Chris Pratt's character actually commenting about the enclosure for the Indominus being poo and far too small. All other enclosures seem to work just fine.
Yeah. IIRC, the only enclosures that failed in some way were the Indominuses, the pterodactyls and the T-Rex. But the latter was intentional to lure the T-Rex into fighting the Indominus.
The T-Rexes and pterodactyls were fine, the aviary just got broken into and the T-Rexes was open intentionally.
God, this bugs me so much. The craziest part about it is they acknowledge the failures of the first park, and yet apparently decided not to develop any procedures for an escaped dinosaur. For goodness sake, their containment team could hardly have caught an elephant, let alone a gigantic murder beast.
People are getting bored of seeing the same old dinosaurs, so we genetically engineered new ones to keep the experience fresh. What does this new one do? It has the ability to turn invisible. ... We are running a theme park where people come to see dinosaurs and you made an invisible one that they can't see? Yes, you're fired. Jerry, lock down that enclosure and leave it to starve to death. We can't risk opening the doors under any circumstances.
Star Wars Episode 4 would have ended so quickly if they just fired one shot.
Escape pod launches. There goes another one. Go ahead and blow it up. Can't be too sure.
I'm sure an empty escape pod just blasted off on its own for no reason.
Happens all the time on these old Corellian ships. It's getting to be a big health and safety problem, better blow it up to make sure nobody gets hurt.
I bet that gunnery officer has to submit power usage and ammo expenditure reports every week. Every shot spent on empty escape pods just makes his numbers that much worse and he's less likely to get promoted.
There's actually a short story about exactly this. It's in the 40 Years of Star Wars book. If you haven't read it, it is scary how close you are to the whole plot.
Hold your fire? What are we paying by the laser now?
And the stormtroopers would also have been fully aware of non-humanoids, non-humans and what they are capable of. That line always stood out as lazy screenwriting. Would have been better to even just leave that out entirely. Edit. Sassoduck informs me that C-3PO is a humanoid.
What? Are we charging by the laser now?
You don't do the budget, Terry, I do.
Could have prevented 6 movies if they had destroyed the whole moon of Jeddah in Rogue One instead of just the city.
What makes it even more insane is that droids are a thing. This was a mission of the utmost importance, so critical that Darth Vader personally went to supervise it. And then they just let an escape pod go despite the fact that 2 droids were almost assuredly seen during the firefight?
Mamma mia. Just get a DNA test.
Turns out I'm 100%.
At risk for early onset Alzheimer's.
Turns out I'm 100%.
If E.T. wasn't wandering around like an idiot and missed the ship back home.
I always got the impression that E.T. was itself a child.
The Fast and the Furious. He's a cop, I know, the end.
There's a line in the movie where the sister goes to Paul Walker. My brother likes you, he doesn't like anybody. Like why? He has been nothing but shady and the entire time Dom seems like he's more annoyed by Brian than anything else. God, this movie is dumb.
Because the Buster kept him out of handcuffs. The Buster brought him back.
Series of unfortunate events could have ended after one book if literally any adult would listen to the children who were always right about Count Olaf following them.
I hated Mr. Poe for that. I don't remember if he even apologized for not believing them.
Rereading them as an adult made me realize that the adults were all intentionally written as stuck-up morons, and it added to the humor. Everybody is just awful and it's hilarious. If Harry Potter just used Muggle solutions sometimes, he would have saved himself a lot of time.
This is my .50 caliber rifle, let's go kick Voldemort's ass.
Why is Harry Potter using a gun to solve almost 70% of his problems such a funny thing on my head?
Because 70% of his problems are easily solved by guns.
I mean, if Voldemort had tried to kill him non-magically, it would have been better for him.
Let's see love protect you from a hammer, little bitch ass baby motherfucker. Edit. I'm not one to add edits to thank people for upvotes and awards usually, but I find the fact that I've got not one, but two helpful awards hilarious. I really hope I haven't helped people kill babies.
Haven't watched the movies, but there's a scene in one of the books where a new Brit PM is elected and one of the photos in their office is a wizard photo that tells him about Voldemort, and his reaction is to just fold like a wet blanket. Just about every PM in history would have told the wizards to give them the info that they need to set up a join a raw, shash strike on Voldemort and his minions, and then bam. No more Voldemort problem.
Let's split up. No, okay.
I love how Cabin in the Woods played with this. Okay, we stay together, go room by room, and try to fortify everything. Sound of hissing gas. Wait, no, let's split up.
The way Cabin in the Woods jokes with horror cliches is hilarious. On the creepy messenger the characters meet by making everyone laugh about his warnings, on the character finding a book with some creepy Latin in it and reading it anyway, and then there's something written in Latin here. Okay, I don't think we should read the Latin. Ominous voice, read it out aloud. What the F? On characters deciding to go wander alone. Ominous voice, go for a walk. What do you want? You think I'm a puppet, huh? I'm the boss of my own brain, give it up, I'm gonna go for a walk, and it's all uncovered by the guy who smokes WD-LMAO.
Wasn't it because he'd smoked so much WD that he had a crazy tolerance for DG and so the gas they used didn't affect him?
Yep, also playing with the stoner dies first horror cliché.
Cabin in the Woods was such an amazing love-hate letter to horror. Beautifully meta while not sacrificing entertainment.
Definitely on my top list, I recommend it at every opportunity. It starts up as a rather average cliché, but takes such a hard turn, the finale is literal madness.
A guy at work was asking for suggestions for streaming one weekend. I suggested Cabin in the Woods. He said, I don't like horror movies. I told him, then you'll love it. He loved it.
Kong Skull Island. When they saw that 100 feet ape they should have turned back.
Or maybe don't drop effing bombs on unknown land to track it. Also, if they didn't, maybe Kong would have seen them as good humans and it would have saved some precious time.
I think later in the movie John Goodman says he used bombs because wanted to get the ape out in the open and mad so he could prove it was real and convince the army to kill it. Of course, why any of the other scientists went along with that is the real plot hole.
Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. If Sirius had just revealed himself to Harry at the beginning of the movie, they could have avoided the rest of the series and Voldemort wouldn't have come back. Harry, it is I, Sirius Black, your godfather. I was framed for giving up your parents to Lord Voldemort by a man named Peter Pettigrew who is currently disguised as a rat and living with a family called the Weasleys. You know them? Your best friend? You don't say.
And I would be willing to take Veritaserum to prove I'm telling the truth.
There are so many things in Harry Potter that make it nearly impossible to write a logical story. That serum, the time turner, frigging portkeys just at a first thought.
I love Frozen, but Chief Troll, fear will be your enemy, Child Elsa, frightened king and queen aka sensible adults. Could you please elaborate on that?
You guys clearly have actual knowledge pertaining to Elsa's strange powers, could you elaborate on that? We are happy to pay you for your assistance given that we are actual royalty.
Maybe you could train her in the mystical arts that you're clearly familiar with.
Child Elsa. Whoa, I know Kung Fu.
LMAO, we know the trolls said fear would be your enemy, so, fear your powers. Hide them. They are evil and everyone will hate you if they find out. LOGIC.
I've felt for a while that the chief troll is actually the bad guy pulling the strings in that franchise. The king and chief knew about each other before the first story began. The chief only interacts with the two heirs of Arendelle. And at the end of Frozen 2, he has already disposed of one queen and appointed a younger, easily manipulated and less powerful queen in her place. Why is he doing all this? Real estate. The kingdom sits on some nice property.
28 weeks later. Do not let the guy with the clearance visit his infected goddamn wife. Also, do not take people out of their secure private rooms and stick all of them into a goddamn subway station during a new outbreak of a highly contagious disease.
Do not let the guy with the clearance visit his infected goddamn wife. I feel like that just flies in the face of standard isolation rules. He'd have to wear a hazmat to get in, if he was even allowed in at all.
Don't forget, his infected wife was left completely alone, no supervision of any kind. God, the military's ineptitude in that movie made me angry. So many outrageous mistakes made.
I absolutely love this movie, but yes. Sticking everyone in one room was really dumb. Shelter in place would have made more sense.
Probably not the fastest, but Home Alone deserves an honorable mention.
I like how the police completely don't take the call for a missing child seriously. I believe the cop said, "Tell them to count their kids again," and then left. WTF.
Plus, when he knocked on the door, he didn't announce it was the police. Just banged on a door expecting some kid alone would have answered.
Leaves house. Wait, where's Kevin? Credits edit. I remembered his name.
As a kid who used to go on trips with the entire family, you'd be surprised how many times a kid was left behind. Especially if he's annoying and you're mentally exhausted from having him in your mind. So when he's not around, it's a welcome relief, producing a pleasant feeling of false security. At least until you notice things are too quiet, like on the quiet part of a drive, and you're half expecting him to complain about something, but he doesn't, so you realize he's not there because you subconsciously left him behind in an out-of-state gas station bathroom, assuming he was in the car the entire time, and come back pretending it was a prank. Mom.
Years ago when I was in Disneyland, I spotted a little girl standing in the middle of the crowd sobbing hysterically. Everyone was just walking around her obliviously. I asked her where her parents were, and she had no clue. I didn't see anyone around who seemed to be with or looking for this poor kid. I told her that I was going to take her to someone who worked for Mickey and they would find her parents, and I took her to the restaurant nearby and let the staff take over from there. She couldn't have been over 5 years old. I felt bad for her parents, they must have panicked when they couldn't find her. I really hope they reunited them quickly. I know the Disney staff is super trained on handling that kind of thing.
Kevin wasn't actually an annoying kid, his family was just being really mean to him. His brother eating his pizza is a perfect example.
Didn't they have a plausible explanation for that though? Something about the neighbor kid getting counted and someone wearing Kevin's hat and coat?
Yeah. The neighbor kid was leaning into the van and the mother didn't really look at him while counting.
The person counting was an older cousin. Also, the power went out the night before and caused their alarm clocks not to work, so they were in a huge rush.
And they were in 2 vans, so everyone assumed Kevin was in the van they weren't in. And apparently everyone had issues with Kevin, so they were probably collectively just relieved to not be sitting next to him on the van plane, and didn't care to account for him.
Additionally, when they're having dinner the night before and Kevin pushes Buzz, they spill some drinks, there's a shot of the damp wad of paper towels going into the trash, and you can see Kevin's plane ticket accidentally gets tossed out at the same time, so when they get to the airport, they hand out everyone's tickets, have none left over, and assume they're good.
Wow, I never knew that till now. I completely forgot they would have noticed the ticket lol.
And the dad accidentally threw Kevin's plane ticket in the garbage the night before when cleaning up the spilled pop, or milk, at dinner.
Kevin.
Comments you can hear.
Explain to me how Kevin McAllister could take out the wet bandits but scream.
Jurassic Park III Guy doesn't bribe those 2 men on the boat to get so close to Isla Sorna. Guy would have lived, Eric would never be in danger, and Mr. Kirby wouldn't have to lie his way to hire Alan, Billy, Udesky, who, in turn, hired Cooper and Nash.
Alternatively, Dr. Grant could have kept his word and stood by. No force on earth could get me on that island.
Or the other thing, wait for the effing check to clear in the bank account before going on trip. FFS. Thank you for watching. We upload new videos every day, so be sure to come back for more fun. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video.